This is how to climb faster than 99% of players in just 6 to 12 months. We're diving into the mindset and the discipline that separates the climbers who stay stuck versus the ones that climb real fast. I've used this exact approach to climb myself, and my best students are the ones that apply this consistently. If you want to climb faster than 99% of League players, we need to start with understanding the mindset that fits with it. And I call this the anti-climb mindset. It's very simple. You don't climb by randomly climbing or winning. You climb by improving and getting better at the game. Climbing is never linear. There's always this variation of about 200 LP. And the way I want you to view it is that if you improve, that's like the engine, and LP, the thing that comes out, you climbing, is the output. There's going to be situations where you might just lose 3 games in a row and there was very little that you could do about it. And that may lead to you getting incredibly frustrated. You can't control LP. What you can control is you can control your own improvement and how good you get at the game. And if you chase LP and fully focus on that, that's going to lead to tilt, spam queuing, very emotional decisions, and that's going to just spiral everything down. For me, it actually took a really long time to realize this. My first 10, 11 years of playing the game were fully chasing LP. And the reality is I didn't climb that fast in those years. Only the last few years that I've really tried to shift that mindset is when I see the biggest amount of growth, not in me as a player, but also in my rank. So the next thing is going to be really important. And I've not seen anyone really talk about this form of champion pool discipline. So to lay the groundwork, whenever you play a game of League of Legends, you're either learning a champion or you're learning the game. So if you want to learn the game, you need to have a foundation of champion mastery to be already there. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible for you to focus on the game fundamentals. And the truth is, I've climbed the fastest when I kept a pool of 2 champions, specifically because of that reason. And I also see this in my best students. They have a clear and cut champion pool that they're able to stick to for a long period of time, which allows them to focus on the game fundamentals and it allows them to improve the fastest. But now we're going to talk about a part of learning a champion that no one talks about. Whenever you learn a new champion, you're first going to start off in the honeymoon phase, and you're going to be feeling incredible in this champion. You're going to look at all of the good things that this champion does. You're going to be able to execute it pretty well. And usually, if the champ is not too hard, your win rate is actually above 50% in this first 60 games of the champion pool journey. But afterwards is where the real big 100, 200 games come. And this is when we drop into the valley of despair. I've been in this valley of despair multiple times on a lot of different champions, and this is absolutely brutal. The reality is most players actually quit at this point of the champion pool journey, very specifically because they start losing more than that they start winning. They start focusing on the negatives instead of the positives on the champs. They see so many weaknesses, and instead of trying to fix or resolve those weaknesses, what they do is they swap up to a different champion, which leads them to the position where they're once again going to be focusing on champion mastery instead of game fundamentals, and you're just going to be stuck. That's just the reality of the situation. But very specifically, I want to talk about how I overcame this part of my champion journey. I'm going to use my best champion, for example, Syndra. 2 years ago, I started putting a lot of games in on Syndra. And at first, I loved her. I did really good on the Syndra rework. And then she got a slight nerf. So the champion just got significantly worse. I wasn't that good on her as well. But what I did is instead of dropping her, I actually kept playing her. And I didn't just randomly keep playing her because she was already not the best in the meta. I also blue wand her every single game. So what was going to happen is that I blinded her. I got counterpicked. I got put in the worst possible game states, the worst possible scenarios. My win rate on this champ was about 40% at that time, and I put like 100 games in on a 40% win rate champ. I lost a lot of LP, but reflecting upon it right now, I recognize that that's probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my champion journey, specifically because I got put in games where I needed to set myself to such a high standard to win them. Otherwise, I would just automatically lose the game on this champ. And that means that eventually, when I got to that point of mastery, when Syndra also got buffed and she got back into the meta, what happens is that I stopped blind picking her. She was a lot stronger champion, and just randomly I started winning 70% of all of my Syndra games because every game felt so incredibly easy. I learned so much from all of those hard games that I played that when the games got slightly easier, my champion mastery upon this champion just absolutely exploded in the game. So the moral of the story is, right, if you get into the valley of despair, the depths of despair, where you feel like you can't play another game of this champion, this is the time where the real champion mastery is actually built. Learn, set yourself to a really high standard, and pull through with the champion. So in the League community, there's currently the status quo where a lot of players are blaming their teammates, blaming externals, and that's really good for us. Because if everyone's focused so much on the other players, all we have to do to climb faster than 99% of players is take radical accountability. No blaming teammates, matchmaking, or meta, anything like that. You're responsible for every decision, even in the unwinnable games. And I know that this works because in the past, I used to be a really big flamer. I used to be that exact guy that would just add people after the game, type to them, be insanely toxic in chat. I even got a 2-week ban for it. And afterwards, I started slowly reforming, but that wasn't necessarily the reason why I reformed. The reason why I started reforming and getting into this healthy, sustainable mindset was because I started interacting with other people and players that had this positive mindset about the game. Truth is, burnout and tilt actually comes from feeling powerless or not accepting that it's actually you. I recognize that every single game, there's something that you can do to change the outcome. Accountability and just fully focusing on your own deeds and actions gives you complete control, and it also doesn't tilt you anymore if you start losing because you know what to look for. And this should tie back very well to the first thing that we talked about, the anti-climb mindset. I want you guys to show up in every game to improve, not to actually win, because you can't control the wins. You can control your own improvement and your accountability in that regard. Recently, a newer player joined our coaching program and he really had high aspirations to climb. Now that's great and all, but there's one really big trap that a lot of players are falling themselves into. And that is that they are trying to do too much at once, not only in-game, but also outside of game. What I found over the past few years coaching and also climbing myself is that it's not about finding all of the hidden concepts in the game and trying to learn them. It's actually about keeping it as simple as possible for yourself and just fix your biggest weaknesses one by one. We want to focus on mastering one concept at a time. And I can share a bit of a story because I've made this mistake so often in the past. I spent months and months on end focusing on the wrong learning objective. I wasn't focusing on my biggest weakness. I was trying to make my strengths even stronger, but that's not what wins you games in the long run. So find your biggest hole in your gameplay and make sure that you improve that part of it. Create a habit out of it. Usually that takes around 3 weeks. And if you don't know what your biggest weakness is, here's how I would approach it. There's 2 ways you can go about it. Number 1, you can play 10 games. You're going to review all 10 games and then you're going to look for trends in your gameplay. Then you're going to probably find 2 or 3 things that you don't do that well. And then I want you to just go all in on focusing on one of these 3 things. Look up educational content on YouTube. Try to find out everything that you know about this specific topic and specifically only review that in your next 20 to 30 games. And number 2, another faster and more efficient way to do it is to get coaching. Link in the description. So how long does it actually take to see results? Well, we have to understand that climbing is not linear. It will always go up and down. You will lose games, you will win games out of your control. One thing that you can focus on is your improvement. Improvement always comes over LP. I really want you guys to focus on process and improvement goals rather than LP goals. For example, if you're trying to improve your warding and leaning because your warding is not that good, what you want to do is you want to set yourself a very clear 3-week goal to fix your warding and leaning. And then at the end of the 3 weeks, I want you to compare yourself with how you did it 3 weeks ago. That's how you focus on the improvement instead of the LP. Now, on average, right, I want you to think in 6-month time scales because that's when all of the improvement that we've done can actually show in LP. On average, the average player climbs about 200 LP in 6 months. And if you apply all of the concepts that I talked about, you will easily be able to climb 300 to 400 LP in this time frame. So I want to conclude the most important points that we talked about. Climbing is a reflection of your improvement. Your LP will follow from you getting better, not the other way around. One of the key things to improve fast is to build real champion mastery. Stick to a champion for a longer period of time and go through the valley of despair. Get through the shit patches of a champion to get incredibly good and consistent on it. You need to actually commit to becoming a better player first and rank will follow. You're not just a player, guys. You're a student of the game. Take radical accountability and be curious about how you as a player can level up your game. And if you want to learn more about climbing and improving in League, check out this video right here.